With the rise of personal incomes and living standards in China, the outbound tourism market of the Middle Kingdom has grown by leaps and bounds. In 2013, the number of outbound tourists rose 17% from 2012 to 97 million. And following an increase in the number of permitted overseas destinations to 150 countries, further growth of outbound tourism is expected. We're joined now by Ayelet Mensch, founder and CEO of Bambook, a concierge service and travel company tailored towards Chinese business people and tourists to Israel, and Sam Chester, China analyst at asset management firm KSPS Clarity. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure
so
to be here.
What exactly is the story here with Chinese tourism?
I think there's three trends that you have to look at in looking at the Chinese market. The first one is that Chinese tourists overseas are the largest global tourism share of the market, and also they're the fastest growing. Just in the past year, as you mentioned, you had almost 100 million Chinese traveling overseas. In 6 years, it's predicted to double to 200 million.
Unbelievable.
Second thing I would point out is that Chinese are also the highest spenders overseas, by far. They pass Germany, they pass the US, and the Chinese, the average tourist, pays 70 more than the global average. So in terms of an economy, from the economic perspective, you have the largest market, the fastest growing market of Chinese tourists, the highest spenders, and then the final trend I would just point out is that preferences are evolving. Chinese tourists didn't go overseas beyond 15, 20 years ago. Right. Growing middle class in China, growing wealth, desire for Western goods. Chinese are going overseas now, and this is the time when markets such as Israel's can influence
Interesting. Would you say that, I mean, the reason why they're spending more money abroad is because they have less in China? I mean, China is an open market. China has a lot of new Western products as well. Why would you think that they're spending more money abroad?
Well, I think that the Chinese tourists, they generally like to show off. They like to go abroad and bring back a memento and show their friends.
Something that shows where they were, so to speak.
Exactly. It shows where they were, and they can share their experiences with their friends and family back home.
Okay, well, actually, go ahead.
I would just add, I think price disparity is another important part of the picture. Your average Western good in China, people tend to think of China as, oh, it's a place where everything's very cheap. It's not true
Western
for
goods.
Chinese. Western goods, which are highly desired by your Chinese consumer, are very expensive in China.
Right.
So for Chinese, they go to Paris, they go to Tel Aviv, they go to London, and they have a chance to buy highly desired goods for a good price.
Gotcha. Now, Ayelet, I understand, I mean, you started a new concierge service taking business people and tourists into Israel. What is the story in Israel in terms of the tourist sector?
Well, Chinese tourism to Israel is not as developed as it is in other parts of the world like the US or Europe. Last year it was 24,000, but it's growing every year. It was 20,000 the year before.
Right.
Primarily, it tends to be Christian tourists, but also now more business people are coming. There's an interest in Israeli innovation, startup nation, and different technologies, which is what my company.
Exactly. So from your experience, who do you see coming in? I mean, like, considering that you have this concierge service, what kind of people have expressed most interest in coming to the Holy Land?
So a lot of people that work in investments, law firms, really you get the gamut of business people. They're interested in Israeli technology, technologies that would complement their products.
What do they know about Israel? I mean, to what extent do you have to guide them and tell them, well, this is Israel, this is Silicon Valley, so to speak, you know, we have everything that you can find in America, presumably. What exactly, how much do you have to guide them in that sense?
So it depends on the client, the consumer, but most Chinese, they don't know too much about Israel. They really need to educate them, and there is a lack of material available. It's something that now the Ministry of Tourism is working on, and Times of Israel just started a
new Chinese site.
A new Chinese site. But they think that Israel is a war zone. You know, it's very dangerous here.
Right.
And we need to educate them what
you can actually find here, so to speak.
Exactly.
Sammy, I mean, in terms of the market here in Israel, to what extent is the market actually prepared to bring in these Chinese tourists?
I think it's an important question. I think, first of all, tourism numbers in Israel contribute almost 7% to the Israeli GDP. And as Ayelet mentioned, Chinese right now are a minimal part of that contribution, that tourist contribution to the Israeli economy. And yet the potential is there. The market doesn't yet know Israel. the Israeli economy is not prepared to respond to the Chinese tourist. And yet, if you look at peer countries, if you look at countries in the region like Egypt, which has a huge tourist economy and gets a lot of Chinese tourists relative, particularly to Israel. If you look at countries in Europe, where Chinese, again, as we said earlier, are the largest visitors now to major tourist destinations like Paris. There's tremendous growth potential there.
Well, Sam Chester from KCBS Clarity, thanks for joining us, and Elad Mensch from Bambouk, right?
Yeah.
Bambouk, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have to end here. I'm Benjamin Changal Faris. Thanks for watching, and please join us again tomorrow.